hugging, there's been wine drinking, there's been anything and everything that I can help a client with. And that's one of your fantastic opportunities. You all remember the story of the big lion that had something in his foot, and a little animal removed it from his foot, and the lion was forever grateful to that little animal. Does anybody remember that story? You're going to be pulling those things out left and right. And that's part of your job. Part of your job is to learn how to get along with anyone and everyone, and how to help anyone and everyone in every way you can. That's going to be one of your jobs as an estate planner. Because if you call most of my really good clients and say, is Alan a good lawyer? Yeah, he's a great lawyer. What has he done for you? He got my son-in-law a job. He yelled at my wife, so we're still married. He made me go to a counselor. He introduced me to somebody that became a lucrative business deal. They probably won't even mention their estate plan. So there's a video I want you to watch. Maybe we'll have time to watch it today, or you can watch it on your own. But I want you to watch this video. It's called Get Service. Getservice. It's 6 minutes or 4 minutes on YouTube. It's also known by the name Magic Glasses. And when you watch that video, watch it with a group, or watch it with someone you love. And I want you to picture yourself both as the professional in the video and also from the standpoint of him personally. And I'll just leave it at that. But do you guys have any questions, or do you want to have any discussion on the 5 balloons?
I've got a comment, but before I jump in, I'll open it up to the room. Any questions or comments on that stuff?
Okay, lady on my far right. You got an apple there, right? You raise your hand. Okay, you're there. You've been called on. Which of these balloons do you have any interest whatsoever in having involvement with? Which of these balloons have you seen in your life so far? Anyone else want to volunteer? Any balloon? Because different people are going to be better or worse with different balloons. Okay, you guys are all stone-faced.
Let me make a comment based on something that you said there. With regard to your team, when you were talking about the team, I love the fact that you brought up the point that we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, but what you've done is something that I think is hard to do without a lot of self-awareness or a lot of mistakes, which is you've got your strengths over here, you've got your weaknesses over here, and what do you spend time on? You can either spend time on making your strengths stronger or making your weaknesses sort of mediocre. And what you've done is spend more time on your strengths and hire people who have strengths in places that you're weak.
You got it. You got it. That's a much better strategy for life. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of mediocre talents. There's a great saying, Frank Sinatra never moved pianos. He only sang. So, and you can take some personality tests that can help you understand your strengths better. There's a fantastic book by, I think his name is Marcus Buckingham. He works for the Gallup poll, and it's called Discover Your Strengths. And the book has a test you can take on the internet, and then it has 26 chapters, so it'll tell you your different areas of strengths, and it will help you spot your weaknesses. And another really good program for that is the Kolbe A test, Kolbe, capital A. It's $49.95 on the internet, and you answer some multiple choice questions, and she will tell you, Catherine Kolbe, who's a great psychologist, they will give you a score card and some information, and also a podcast on what your strengths are. Because you think your strengths are certain things, but they're actually certain other things. So one thing our firm does, and we've always done, is we give psychological profile tests to anyone we hire before we hire them. It's much better to spend $150 on a test than it is to learn in person what the person's problems are. And we follow those tests pretty well. So, you know, there's just a lot of things out there that most law firms aren't doing, and I'm really glad they're not doing them.
Absolutely. You know, it's neat to see what you're doing with this, and you know, I realize that a lot of us, you know, myself included, are that it's hard to, like, if you, how can I say this? If your organization isn't already doing these things, it's not like junior associate is going to say, hey, let's make these big changes, firm. I mean, it's just not going to work like that. But and the times that I've tried to do that in my career have not gone very well. You know, it's like my idea, it's a good idea, you know, it's nobody cares about your good idea, you know. Those are hard lessons to learn. But the fact that you're laying these out here, I think it's important to at least internalize what best practices look like and do them for yourself. Because even if the entity that you work for isn't giving psychological tests to everybody so that they find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, you could do it for yourself and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then tailor your own life and your career to that. And I can't tell you how valuable it's been for myself to take those things. I mean, those particular tests that you mentioned, Alan, I have not specifically heard of. I've used the Myers-Briggs on myself, and found it to be extremely useful, at least as a tool for self-knowledge, and you know, to bring out particular tendencies that may not have been all that visible without that kind of external instrument. So I appreciate you bringing those up. One thing I also wanted to highlight here is something that Bob Pierce, who's unfortunately not with us today, has emphasized throughout the course of this course, which is the intensely personal nature of an estate planning practice. I mean, you can apply that to other areas of law. I mean, if you're in a litigation matter, I mean, I do commercial litigation as well as tax litigation matters. You're going to be in the bunker. You're going to be in the foxhole with your client in the midst of litigation where their business is at risk, you know, in some way, shape, or form, and that's a very personal relationship. But estate planning takes it one step further. Asset protection takes it one step further, because it's not a one-off litigation deal. It's their life. And you talk about pulling thorns out of the paws of a lion. You know, you are making their lives easier. You're taking that point of literally a pain point, and you're making it go away. And you are then seen as the person that makes the pain go away. And that's a very nice halo to wrap around you.
Right, and believe it or not, you will solve a lot of problems that psychiatrists and psychologists can't solve, because you're not limited to 50 minutes. You know, most mental health professionals give their client 50 minutes and then it's out the door, and it's Socratic method. Whereas I can sit with a client 4 hours. If it takes 4 hours to work it out, I can listen to all the details. I can also rant and rave if I want to. I can be more empathetic, you know, so I can have a friendship. They can't have a friendship with their psychotherapist. So you will solve some big problems for clients, and there's no better way to have a great relationship with a client than to help them solve their problems and to know that you care about them. Let's go to page 4. Page 4, I just want to note for you, and we don't have to spend the time here, but in the Stetson program and when I give programs for doctors, I actually just say, take 5 minutes and write down your goals. There's a really, really important thing that happens when you write something down by hand. There's scientific studies and there's a lot of experience that says it's one thing that you're driving the car and you're thinking about this goal that you want to be president of a club. It's another thing completely to write it down in your handwriting and to write down what the obstacles are, what the solutions are, and what you're going to do. When you have that conversation with yourself that involves both the conscious and subconscious mind because you wrote something down, you are going to be much stronger. Now, that's not to say that if you type it down, you'll never succeed. But we just know from experience, and we know from teachings and writings, that people who write down their goals, if you filled this out and you wrote down these goals and you put it in your wallet or your purse and you carried it around and you looked at it once a week, you will go much farther than you otherwise would have gone. So I've got a good video for that too, but it's just really important to understand, number one, have goals and your life will be much better. It'll help keep you on track. And number two, find out what your client's goals are. Find out what your referral source goals are, because what they're really excited about is what you want to help them with. One client wants to know how to sell his boat. Another client wants to know how to find a new wife. A third client wants to grow his business. Well, my estate planning conversation is going to be based on their goals, not based on my goals. So that's pages 5 and 6. Now, page 7, I want to mention problem solving, because most lawyers and certainly most clients don't know how to problem solve, and they don't know how to deal with problems. And in my opinion, the best book on this subject was written in the 1930s by a guy named Dale Carnegie. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And the best book on human relationships that has probably been written in the last 100 years is Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So those are two very essential guides. And one thing that I messed up in law school, and I sincerely regret, is that I did not make an attempt to make friendships with people who were acquaintances. I could have easily made friendships with 50 more people in law school than I did, because I just had this attitude that we were competitors and there wasn't time to do that, and they weren't in the clique I was in, even in law school. And now I bump into these people and I wish I had a 35-year friendship because they are so cool. So if you have the impression that your parents gave you that you can't trust strangers and that most people aren't good and only a few people are good, I want to challenge that mental model. I want to challenge that mental model, One of my friends who's in his 50s now, he goes, God, if I only knew that in high school I could have gone up to 20 pretty girls and one of them would have gone out with me, that I could have been going out with one of the 20 pretty, but I just didn't know that you could just knock on that door and it would happen. I had no idea that I would have a success rate of 5%. If I had known that. So I'm telling you now, I can make friends with just about anybody. And it's not because I'm special in any way whatsoever. It's just because I follow what Carnegie's suggestions are. You smile, you look them in the eye so that you know their eye color. You shake their hand, you use their name, you remember their name. You give a small compliment. I love your purse. Where did you get that pen? I like those shoes. I like your car. Then you find out any little thing about them and you let them talk. And you listen, and you listen, and you listen. That's all it takes. It doesn't take you don't have to be the most beautiful person. You don't have to be charming. You don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to be good on your feet. It's okay if you stutter. You just have to say, hi, my name's Alan Gassman. It's nice to meet you. Where'd you get that car? I had a car just like it in high school. That's all it takes to make a friend. And that's what you need to do with referral sources. You do need to be able to, in a cocktail party, to walk up to any stranger and go, "Hi, I'm Alan Gassman. It's nice to meet you." And guess what the stranger's going to say? They're not going to say, "Get away from me, you weird, aggressive person." They're going to say, "Hi, I'm Mary Smith. It's nice to meet you. Where are you from?" So, you know, we're all shy. We all have innate shyness. And in law school, you have a lot of loss of self-esteem because you have tough professors and tough colleagues. But if you watch the Warren Buffett YouTube video where he says, "The best thing I ever did was I took the Dale Carnegie course. It was better than high school, college, and graduate school and teaching in graduate school. It was the Dale Carnegie course." That's all in the book. Now, in How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, clients are going to come to you with problems. They come to you after the death of their spouse or their child. They come to you when they're being sued for the first time in their life. They come to you when they're getting divorced. And you're all aware that we all have enough problems anyway. We all have these 800-pound gorillas. Don't think that you are the only one. Just because you guys haven't talked to each other about your problems doesn't mean that we all don't have them. I got them, Steve has them, everyone has them, believe me. So if you can show your clients how to deal with the problems, they will think that you are the most brilliant lawyer in the world, having nothing to do with the law. And you know, that's what that book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, talks about. And I'll just give you a couple things here on page 7. Get all the facts about the situation. See, the reptile brain, when it's scared, it doesn't think very logically. The client hasn't even thought through the facts. Get all the facts. Ask a lot of questions. Write down a lot of stuff. By the way, when the client is in the conference room, you are taking furious notes by hand. You are taking furious notes by hand. It may be chicken scratch, but you'll dictate it later. And it's okay to slow the client down and say, wait a minute, I didn't get that. Let me get this, let me get that. Wait a minute, you're going too fast. I don't understand your accent. Just slow down. Don't fake it when you get a client from India, this type stuff. Just say, please slow down. I didn't understand that. Because eventually they'll become attuned. Get all the facts. They're going to feel better just telling you the facts. It's catharsis. It's just great. They feel better already. They gave you all the facts. You were very thorough. You must be a really good lawyer. Next, what is every alternative that could possibly be used to solve the problem? Even the dumb ones. Believe it or not, a high proportion of the time, the best thing to do is not a darn thing. We all want to be reactive and call someone and yell at them and write them a letter and hide and do all this, but a lot of times the best thing to do is nothing at all. Brainstorm with the client. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What has your spouse suggested? What did your CPA suggest? What did your rabbi suggest? Write them all down. Life is a multiple choice experience. It's not an essay test. Life is multiple choice. You just have to brainstorm the choices. At that point, talk about 2 or 3 of the alternatives that you like best, and then feel free to say, you know, I got a friend who I think really can help us with this. She's a litigation lawyer, the smartest one I ever met. I think one of these things may work, but I really like to run it by her. And by the way, always use the word friend if you can. They like it better if it's a friend. And by the way, you should also be friends with the best 2 divorce lawyers in your city, the best 2 commercial litigators in your city, the best 2 bankruptcy lawyers in your city. You should be friends with them. These are more of your colleagues and mentors. You can say, you know, I work with the best litigation lawyer in town. This case is kind of small for him, but he's got an associate named Matilda. Do you mind if I call Matilda? She works on an hourly basis. She'll send me a bill. I'll pass it on to you. Maybe we'll get her on the speakerphone. You're going to solve that problem. You're going to solve that problem. They're going to feel better about it. Another thing I tell my clients, and it comes right out of the Carnegie book, and by the way, I give them the book. I keep the book on my bookshelf and I hand it to them on the way out, is live your day in day-tight compartments. You know, that's right out of the New Testament. Today is today. Do everything you can for today. Do everything you're supposed to do today. don't worry about yesterday. There's not a darn thing we can do about it. It already happened. Don't worry about tomorrow because there's nothing you can do about tomorrow. Just live your day for today. And I say to the clients, look, what are we going to do today about this problem? A lot of clients have guilt. I try to tell the client, look, everybody does this thing. You made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. No problem. We're all human. That's part of the human predicament. But let's just see what we can do. Now, once the client has decided on a strategy and you're going to decide what to do, you're going to write a letter, you're going to introduce them to Matilda, you're giving them hope that the problem is going to be solved, and you're giving them a sense of direction. And then they can be the actor and they can go get it done. Because a soldier doesn't worry, a soldier just marches. A soldier doesn't worry, they just march for all they're worth. And that's going to help you in your life significantly, because you're going to have problem after problem after problem in life. That's just the way it is. And that's going to help your client significantly. And a lot of times the solutions to the problem is a family limited partnership, a special type of irrevocable trust, an agreement between two partners, a mediation that you're going to attend, a meeting. Now, I go with them to the divorce lawyer. I go with them to the bankruptcy lawyer. I'm their friend, and I want to make sure it's done right. And oftentimes, the best lawyers in town in these specialties don't have the bedside manner, nor do they have the follow-through. So in our law firm, in any given year, we may have 10 to 20% of our revenues from areas of law that have nothing to do with what we do, because I don't want it to fall apart and the client wants me involved. So, just keep all that in mind and develop your Dale Carnegie skills. These are really, really easy books to read. They were written in the 1930s for people who never got through high school. So, Steve, what do you have to add to that?
Well, I have to add that the first book I ever read along these lines was How to Win Friends and Influence People, because I had no idea how to deal with a cocktail party situation. I mean, if you find yourself in law school, you probably have that kind of a mindset. The people that it just kind of comes with the lawyer mindset. You probably have to work a lot harder on that skill set than people that are majoring in communications. I mean, it goes with the territory. But I have not read this other one, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And I think it's a great style point, Alan, that you hand that book to them as your clients leave the room for a couple reasons. One I'm just thinking of is, okay, they've got this book, now they're going to read it, and they're going to have all these happy brain chemicals when they read it and apply those little things. And you know who's associated with those? Alan Gassman.
Right.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Any questions for Mr. Gassman before we flip to the next piece?
I want to talk about stage fright. I want to talk about stage fright a little bit as it comes to mind, because you're going to have stage fright. You're going to get a lot of your business if you speak. If you speak at the Estate Planning Council on some little thing, if you speak to the Rotary, if you're a speaker, you're going to get a lot of business. So you need to go ahead and get these speaking experiences. And the best thing you can do to become a speaker, in my opinion, is take the Dale Carnegie course. It's just great. And when you show up, there's going to be like 15 people there. 5 of them are there because they almost lost their job because they have such bad personalities. They look at the floor, they don't have any idea what to say, and you're miles ahead of them. Then half the people are decent but want to get better. I mean, that's 5 of them are decent but want to get better, and then 5 of them are really good and want to get even better. So you're somewhere in that second or third group. It's a very simple process, but they've been improving it since 1936. And every night you'll give 2 speeches, 1 or 2 minutes each, one on how you applied the first book and one on how you applied the second book. And then you'll sit there and you'll watch all the other people give these talks. And after 9 weeks of that, you'll be great. You'll be fantastic. After I took the course, I hired one of the Dale Carnegie coaches to come to my office and watch me speak for 4 hours. So I did 4 hours of speaking with him there, coaching me the whole time. It was really enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. He videotaped me. He played back the tapes. I still have a lot of the habits he told me to get rid of. By the way, with your hands, do anything you want them to do, because you can't go wrong with your hands. You can keep them still, or you can talk. No speaker ever was a bad speaker because of their hands. So the hands are easy. A couple of secrets. The first secret is no one in the audience gives a damn whether you're a good speaker or not. They could care less whether you're a good speaker. They want to know the information that you brought them. They don't want you to read it, but other than that, you could stutter, you could slumber, you could spit all over them. They don't care. You could make mistakes. They want to know the information. Bring them the information. And if you're a terrible speaker, they'll feel sorry for you and refer to you. They'll think you're so cute. So don't think that anyone cares. And watch that YouTube video where the first George Bush was in Japan giving a talk and he threw up in the middle of the talk. He just threw up in the middle of the talk and then he continued to talk. You're not going to do any worse than that, right? That's really important. The second thing is, only remember bullet points. Your notes should just be bullet points. That's what's really cool about PowerPoints, because a PowerPoint just gives you the bullet point. Don't read it. Believe me, you'll do great. Your reptile brain with all the adrenaline, you'll have plenty to talk about. So don't read it, just do PowerPoints. Rehearse it as many times as you want. Your dog wants to hear it 6 or 7 times, that's fine. You must finish on time. If you don't finish on time, you will never be invited back. And the speech, you only have 2/3 of the time you think you have. So don't oversweat the amount of time. When you give the talk to your dog, you'll realize that you don't have enough time. The final thing I want to tell you is, how many of you have seen, and by the way, if you raise your hand, I won't call on you, but you've seen the play or you've read the play Death of a Salesman, right? You remember Willie Loman. He had such a crappy life. That play, he had such a terrible, terrible life. Terrible things were happening to him. He was a complete failure. The whole audience wishes he would shoot himself halfway through. I want you to imagine that you are playing the role of Willie Loman on the stage. And I want you to think that you did a great job playing the role of Willie Loman on the stage. Now, let me ask you something. When you think about having played that role, were you sad because you were playing the role of Willie Loman? No. Were you concerned about your haunted past and the terrible things you had done? No. Were you concerned about what happens to Willie Loman after the play? No. Because you're the actor on the stage playing the role of Willie Loman. When you use that strategy and you play your role with everything you have and you enjoy playing it, you will have a much, much better result than if you are trying to be the director. So when I walk into the conference room in a situation where I'm a little bit unnerved, it's a client who's hard to handle, I misspelled his name on every document, she's mad at me because my bill was too high, or I'm not prepared because I forgot to prepare, I go in playing the role of the actor, Alan Gassman, and it's my job to play the role. I play the role. If you play the role of the actor, you'll do great every time. If you try to be the director or the writer, you will be screwed. So I want you to just remember that. The final thing is, when you get to be a great speaker, and I want you to think about this in your everyday interactions, I want you to think it doesn't come from your brain to your mouth and out. It comes from the universe through your heart and out. If you think in terms of that, and next time you're in a room with your friends and you're talking with them and you're saying some cool things, or you're with your significant other, whatever it is, I want you to think it's not coming through your brain to your mouth. It's the universe propelling these thoughts and these ideas and these feelings through your heart. And when it becomes that for you, you will be a fantastic speaker and a very empathetic counselor. And I just want you to kind of think about that. It sounds as strange as it can be, but it's a known technique. I'm not going to tell you why it works that way because I haven't the slightest idea. But I want each of you to give some thought to being a good speaker. All right. Now, anything else on that, Steve? Did the one guy just leave because I scared him?
He'll come back.
Maybe it's a bathroom break. I understand those very well.
Well, no, he's a straight. He'll come back.
And by the way, if you guys will need a 3-minute biological break or anything, no problem. Just